Hello, everybody. Josh Brown here, back for another great episode on Franchise Euphoria. Well, today's episode is brought to you by IndieFranchiseLaw.com, a leading resource in the franchise space to help you if you're considering buying a franchise, turning your business into a franchise, or growing your business through a licensing or franchise structure. So go on, check it out, IndieFranchiseLaw.com. I think you'll find a lot of valuable and free information as you continue to kind of weigh franchising and licensing and the growth of your business. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy today's episode. I am thrilled to have on Bob Phillips, who is the Vice President of Marketing at JINYA Ramen Bar. Bob oversees JINYA's multi-brand strategy with a goal to grow the suite of brands in the US, Canada, and beyond, and to help both franchise owners and corporate-owned stores meet their business objectives. Prior to joining JINYA, Bob previously served in leadership roles for Hilton, Banyan Tree, and most recently Oakwood. He's directed marketing for multiple hotel and serviced apartment brands, as well as both fine dining and fast casual restaurants. Really enjoyed this interview with Bob because the whole ramen experience and ramen dining experience has really kind of exploded throughout the U.S. and beyond. Again, and it's sort of just an interesting story, because I think for a lot of us, when we first think about ramen, we think about our high school or college days and, eating it as a midnight snack when it's warmed up in the microwave. Well, now they've taken ramen and made it into an entire unique and wonderful dining experience. So enjoy this interview with Bob. Hello, Bob. Welcome to Franchise Euphoria. How you doing?
Hey, good morning. Great to be here.
Well, thanks for coming on. You're the Vice President of Marketing for the JINYA Ramen Bar franchise. And I guess that's spelled JINYA Ramen Bar franchise. So the title gives it away a little bit, but tell us a little bit about this concept.
Okay, so JINYA, which is customers just know us as JINYA or JINYA Ramen Bar. And it's a really exciting success that's happened in the last 10 years. Our founder is a guy named Tomo Takahashi. He had several successful restaurants in Japan, came to California in 2010, opened up a ramen bar in an area of a place called Studio City, California, which was really quite famous at that time for sushi, but not for other Japanese cuisine. So he had this ramen bar, and it did okay for the first year or so. Then he got some great reviews, and it really just took off from there. A famous restaurant critic named Jonathan Gold visited the restaurant, gave it a great write-up. The Yelp started to take off, and it just went from there. Ramen is really sort of exotic yet familiar. It's basically a soup with noodles and vegetables and meat. And on one hand, it's like this very, people are like, ramen, what is that? And then they realize that, wow, this is just sort of a upgraded chicken noodle soup, or they may have had the instant ramen noodles in college.
See, that's what I'm familiar with, Bob.
Yeah, okay.
That's not exotic, right? The ramen noodles from college are not exotic, but this would be more exotic.
This would be more exotic. So this is a upgraded version. This is where the soup broth is made in the restaurant, and we've handmade the noodles, and we've added, fresh vegetables and meat, and it's really just a wonderful, beautiful entree that comes to your table. So basically, Tomo had that one restaurant, and then it just started to grow. He opened a few more himself, and then he started to get calls from other people saying, hey, would you be willing to franchise this idea? This seems like a hot new concept. And here we are now, 9 years later. We've got 37 restaurants that are open and another 20 plus that are under development. The concept has really caught fire.
Well, and so how quickly into the concept did he franchise? So you said he started it in 2010. When did he begin franchising?
I'm going to say, I think about 2014.
Okay, so 4 years in. So enough time to kind of get the model in place, get the operational systems in place, and marketing team, all that stuff to get that in place before he franchised.
Absolutely. But I will say there's been some interesting As we've grown, there have been each different developments along the way.
Well, so you gotta talk about that then. Tell me some of the developments along the way.
Wow. So Tomo's concept really in the kitchen is a thing of beauty. The recipes are superb. The way the kitchen is run is fun. Restaurant design is a huge specialty of the company. So the restaurants are really cool when you walk in, the atmosphere, the music, etc. But he realized as he franchised, he needed a really thorough training manual and training system that needed to be put together. In terms of marketing, there really needed to be a sophistication on how to market these restaurants. In terms of the timing of this, again, 2014, 15, 16 is really how the whole experience is becoming more and more digital in terms of how do people even find out about restaurants or locate restaurants. So it had to be something that would work with Yelp and work with Google Maps and all these kind of things. On the operation side as well, there's just a lot of products or ingredients that were needed for a ramen bar that were different than other types of restaurants. So the team really worked on finding suppliers across the country, or I should say across the US and Canada. But that was not always easy. And even today, there's certain regions where it might be easier to get one product than another. So Jinya also does have private brand or private label products that we sell to franchisees. So it's really a mix of both a whole list of ingredients that can be bought from restaurant suppliers and then a number of ingredients that come from Jinya.
Well, so obviously, being on an audio podcast, people can have different visuals of what this place looks like. I mean, I know for myself, when I think of, as you describe it, I think of, with the ramen bar component, is this something where all the ingredients are out and they're sort of making it in front of you, or is it a full scale restaurant and there's a full kitchen in the back? Provide a visual of the setup of the locations.
Okay, as you walk into each restaurant, the average restaurant will now have 80 to 100 seats in it. There will be a live bar where you can watch ramen being assembled. So there is a visible kitchen, and there's steam coming up. We're making the soup in the back. We're actually making multiple types of broth. So we are actually making bone broth in one vat, and then we are making chicken or pork or vegan ramen bases in another. And then we're adding garlic oil and chili oil and other things. So you can watch that being assembled. Then there is also usually a rear kitchen or back of house where there's a lot of obviously vegetables being chopped and ingredients being prepared for cooking. Our restaurants itself, some of them have a full bar in terms of serving sake and wine and beer and liquor, and others do not.
And then are there other items on the menu other than ramen, or is it just ramen?
It is more than ramen. We also specialize in tapas or small plates. So there's
Really?
yes, yes. So there's some real favorites. We have our Jinya bun, which is like this very rich bun with pork inside and
Oh,
seasonings.
those are delicious.
We have karage chicken, which is the Japanese fried chicken, which is like amazing with beer, and obviously a range of salads as well. The seaweed salad is a big favorite.
Well, so it's interesting because, obviously restaurants as a generalization are always challenging to run, right? I mean, there's lots of different components to them. I think one of the interesting things about a ramen bar, which, over the last few years have certainly seen a rise of them, popping up here and there. It seems like, the base of it, the soup, the broth, that you can make those in very large quantities. And then it's a matter of just getting the ingredients into them. So it seems like it's the type of operation that would have really healthy margins and would have the ability that across multiple locations, you can really kind of manage the food operation side of it because of the nature of the soup type nature of the product that you're providing. I mean, is that fair?
I think that's really good. There's a couple of interesting layers. So in terms of the Jinya restaurants are extremely profitable because of some of the things you've mentioned, food cost. Also, the average diner stays for less than an hour. So we are able to turn the tables several times, even in one evening or even in one lunch. So in terms of being able to serve more customers, that's really an advantage of our model. The way we make our soup is a bit different than other companies that have sold soup. So there's other concepts out there that actually will make the soup in a factory and ship that to the restaurant in a large container or giant bag even. And the soup is heated up on the premises and often is still quite good. And there's several concepts like that, and I enjoy their soup as a customer. We are making the soup on site and then building each bowl of ramen individually. And as I mentioned, so it's really a sight to behold as each bowl gets built. And as I mentioned, we bring in the bone broth, we bring in the umami or let's say the chicken ramen broth, garlic oil, chili oil, fried onions, noodles, meat, all of the elements come together. So it's really quite that build of the ramen bowl is quite exciting and unique to the concept. And in that one, we're not going on the sort of the lower cost route. The creation of that bowl of soup and noodles is quite special still, and still has some cost elements in it.
And so each location, are they making each of their soups in-house, or is there a distribution model in play?
Each location is making the soups in-house. We do have some of the ingredients that come in as private brand products.
Well, so it's interesting because, it began in 2010, began franchising in 2014. Now we're in 2019. To have 37 locations open and then 20 plus under developed, that's pretty fast growth. Is that what the founder anticipated? Is that what Tomo anticipated? Or, what was sort of the plan when you guys were thinking or going about the franchise model?
I think he was eager for growth, but he was really wanting to keep the quality of the food. He's really passionate about that element, that quality needs to be maintained. So I'm not sure he envisioned the growth happening this fast. And some of the things have been sort of delightful surprises. Some of our most successful restaurants are in places where you wouldn't necessarily think of them in ramen. Places like Atlanta, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Omaha. And these restaurants are packed. I mean, people are loving this as a new cuisine choice in just a range of markets, and that's what's really moving the growth so quickly.
And are these in retail locations or are they independent locations?
It's a mix. Many of them are retail locations. We just opened another one in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, next to a movie theater, and that's again doing really well.
Obviously with the growth, you have to find the right franchisees. And it sounds like, Tomo is, the quality is very, very important. And so, of course, the quality of the franchisee and the qualifications of the franchisee is going to be important to any kind of long-term sustainable growth. How are you guys going about finding your franchisees, and what type of franchisee are you looking for to come into the system?
The ideal franchisee is really someone who has restaurant operations experience and they have enough capital. I mean, of course, we do a bit of a vetting process, and that they're passionate for ramen. They really see that ramen is becoming more and more popular. Customers want it. Customers are looking for more choice. I will say that restaurant experience is huge. We have a few of our new franchisees who've come from having, let's say, multiple, hamburger franchises or multiple sandwich franchises. And those are being quite successful because they come in knowing how to run a restaurant. And basically they're just modeling now to the slightly different elements of ramen preparation. But in terms of managing real estate, managing labor, inventory control, marketing, they're really strong.
in terms of what the marketing and everything that goes into starting a new location, obviously you're the vice president of marketing, so you might be able to speak about this a little bit. What do you guys do on the franchisor side to help these new locations, especially if you're, like you mentioned, Omaha and some of these other locations where might catch some people by surprise, like, huh, I wouldn't have thought of it there. I mean, how are you guys making your entrance into the marketplace?
The thing with that, we do have a whole pre-opening marketing checklist that we share with each franchisee, and that has a few dozen items on it that need to be worked through. Everything from geotagging the location on Google Maps and Waze, getting set up on Yelp, digital advertising. JINYA is very strong on Instagram. That's kind of our number one social media channel. So we have a whole buildup in the 3 months prior to opening. Everything from signage, digital advertising, press release, a grand opening event, and media day. So there is a whole system in place.
Well, I presume you guys are, as a franchisor, are managing and overseeing and actually doing most of the digital marketing for the franchisees.
Yes, that's correct. Though there are some elements for the franchisees to jump in and take over in their market. We have an opening coming up in the Atlanta area, and I was really impressed just meeting with the franchisee, and they already have a plan. They're getting a local talk show DJ involved. There's an Atlanta food website that they're going to be advertising on. So they're really handling this local marketing in a big way, and we'll be handling the sort of national press release and social media support that we'll be boosting into the Atlanta area.
And then how are you guys identifying the locations where you go? I mean, it sounds like people are reaching out to you, but how are you guys discerning and weighing through, the applications and saying, okay, yes, no, don't know if we want to go there? I mean, what are sort of the metrics that you guys are looking for?
JINYA Ramen Bar plays very well in both urban markets and also suburban markets. We're getting a lot of requests. Tomo, our founder, is still very particular and very involved in site selection. So he often will travel to the location, meet with the franchisee, look at different sites before making a final selection.
And then is it the type of model where you're looking for somebody to come in and buy multiple units or be a multi-unit developer or an area developer? Or are you looking more for just one-off owner operators?
We kind of a mixed answer to that. We are looking for multi-unit franchisees who can build out a market, though we will often start with just an agreement for one or two. And if those work well, then we would look to develop 5, 8, 10, etc.
Well, it sounds like a really unique concept. It's interesting. I mean, as I mentioned at the start of the interview, my experience growing up, even in high school and college, was, be at a buddy's house and it'd be, midnight and you're hungry. And so I just warm up one of those ramen noodle soups that was in like a styrofoam type
Yep.
package with like a little plastic thing. And it was delicious. I mean, but of course, super high in sodium and all the other stuff. But it just amazed me that a few years back, I started, even here locally where I'm at, I've seen a couple of ramen bars open up to some pretty good fanfare. And it just caught my attention thinking, what do you think has led to this? I mean, what has, so often when food kind of gets into the category people are going to consider it, it's hard to reinvent that. What do you think has led to this sort of reinvention of the ramen experience?
I think it starts with the millennial generation who are really looking for new experiences, and the food is really good. And so, we've seen an interesting thing on social media where people just get very emotional. They really are passionate about the food and playing with the food and photographing the food. And it's like the millennial generation really has taken sort of an ownership of ramen as like their cuisine. It's almost part of their identity. And I'm being a little specific with this, but I feel this is actually true of like People sometimes want a cuisine or a style of food that maybe is different from their parents' generation. And just reading the comments on Instagram and Facebook and Yelp, it's just like a different world than other restaurants that I might even prefer. Some, like I love ramen, but I also love other kinds of food. But so you get there's this passionate connection, and that's just elevated the cuisine and helped it grow. I think people were looking for something new, and ramen has really filled a space.
Well, it's interesting too because it's relatively fast, right? I mean, it's a pretty
Mhm.
quick experience, as you alluded to. It's probably at a pretty good price point, and it's probably relatively healthy too, I gotta think. I mean, depending on what you get in it, but when you're talking about the makeup of a basic type of chicken broth, let's say, and some noodles, vegetables, maybe some protein in there. I mean, it's relatively healthy, right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, wow, and we pack these bowls with vegetables, and the broths are very rich and so forth.
Well, so
So
in terms of your expansion as we finish up here, where are you guys? Are you guys just looking to go across the US and Canada, or do you have any specific regions in mind that you're targeting right now?
I'd say, well, we do hope to go throughout the US, Canada, and then onward to other international markets. Within the US, there's still a lot of room for growth in the Southwest, places like Phoenix, Tucson, Santa Fe. We're doing so well in Texas in the South that I think there's many more locations that are possible there. Tomo is very focused on new corporate-owned stores in Chicago and New York, and so there are some very targeted markets, but we're pretty open in terms of the US. And now that we've seen that Jinya Ramen Bar can even work in kind of secondary cities and smaller towns, it's really growing. We even had one newer franchisee who talked to us about college towns across the country.
Oh, I think it would do great in college towns.
So that's a whole different interesting conversation.
Oh yeah, I mean to me that would be a natural, great territory for somebody. But well, thank you, Bob, for coming on and sharing, the story here. If anybody wants to learn more about Jinya Ramen Bar, you can go to jinya-ramenbar.com. That's JIN as in Nancy, YA dash ramenbar.com. They actually have a really cool website, and right when you go to it, it kind of shows the whole process of how they put the bowls and make the bowls, and it's got a cool video showing it all kind of come together. So it presents a really good visual. But thank you, Bob, for coming on and really exciting stuff. And look forward to hearing about your future successes.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Franchise Euphoria. If you enjoyed this episode or have enjoyed the podcast in general, I would really appreciate it if you could go to iTunes and leave me a rating and review. It really helps to get this podcast out to more and more people. So the easy way to do it is go to iTunes and in the search box, put in Franchise Euphoria. You will then see my cover art, and you click on my smiling face that says Franchise Euphoria, and then click on the link that says ratings and reviews. It's that simple, but boy, oh boy, does it mean the world to me when people leave ratings and reviews. And like I said, it really helps get the show out there. Once again, would love it if you would go to iTunes and leave a rating and review if you enjoyed this episode or other episodes of the show. And until the next time, happy franchising.